Suma's POV. "What were you thinking?" the instructor yelled. "You used tactical skill and magic in a training session, while on a training field." "We were being chastised for Jake's attack spell. I think he called it railgun." "You annihilated a training dummy. I don't even know how that was possible. It was made of metal." "Sir, I apologize. I didn't realize," Jake started to say, but the instructor didn't let him finish. "Enough. Cadet Suma, he is your familiar, so this is your responsibility," he declared. "I think that'll be enough, Sergeant," Onume said, as he landed on the perch next to the instructor. He was shorter than the instructor and darker in colour, but obviously he outranked the instructor. Members of the King's Armed Forces, once they have graduated from basic training anyway, all wear gold symbols on the chest to display their status. For a private just out of training, the symbol is a single golden line, worn horizontally. For the next 2 ranks, an extra line is added above the first. This Nume was a major, which I knew because he wore 3 triangles in his chest, where the instructor only had a single circle. "Major," the instructor said, and stood straight up on his perch, his feathers slightly raised from surprise. "Sir, I apologize for my inability to properly control and discipline my cadets," he said. "No need for that, Sergeant, at least not yet," the major said, and turned to face Jake and I. "So, which one of you was it that cast the tactical magic? I thought I heard that the familiar was the caster, but I could have been mistaken, or at least that's what my common sense wants me to believe." "It was me, sir," Jake said. He was stood stock still, and even straighter than the drill instructor. His arms were behind his back, and one of his hands was wrapped tightly around the other arm's wrist. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't realize my spell would be so powerful," Jake explained. "I admit, when I first noticed Jake's spell, I was convinced it wasn't going to be enough, or at least nothing special. You used so little mana after all. I still don't understand how a spell so weak could have produced such an effect." "What is your name, if you possess one?" the major asked. Strangely, he seemed unfazed by Jake's ability to speak. So far, most Nume we have encountered have been caught off by it. Having a familiar with the ability to speak is almost unheard of, outside of children's stories anyway, so the major's ability to take it in stride was fairly impressive. "That's a complicated answer, sir," I told the major. "Simplify it," he said plainly. "Jake, this is a major," I said to Jake over our private connection. "We should use your familiar name, that's the proper protocol." He agreed. "My name is Sentinel," Jake told the major. "Well, Sentinel, who was it that taught you tactical magic?" the major wondered. Actually, this was something I hadn't thought of. I just accepted it on account of how powerful Jake is. But who did teach him that spell? It certainly wasn't me. Only the highest level of mages are even allowed to attempt to learn it. "I created the spell myself, sir, but it was based off knowledge from my world," Jake explained. I had figured that would be the case, that it was something from his world, but I didn't expect him to be able to actually develop the spell alone. Most tactical magic requires teams of Nume from all walks of life working in tandem for months or years to create a new tactical spell. "You and who else?" the major asked, obviously not believing Jake did it alone. "No one, sir. I did it alone," Jake told him. The major seemed irritated, whether by Jake's answer, or by the thought that a single person could create tactical magic all by himself. I couldn't tell. "Do you expect me to believe that a single familiar was able to develop, test, and successfully utilize tactical magic all by himself?" the major asked in quite a serious tone, his feathers pressed closely to his body. "It's the truth, sir," Jake responded. There were a few long moments of quiet while the major stared at Jake. "Sentinel, follow me." He turned to the instructor. "Sergeant, continue your class. Now, I assume you are this familiar's master," he asked me. "Yes, sir," I said. "Please follow me as well." The major then spread his wings and took flight. I followed him, and Jake walked after us quickly. We landed beside a large drake who had a narrow saddle on its back between its wings. We were perched on a few moulded vines, and when Jake arrived, he opted to sit on the grass. I don't know how he was comfortable like that, though. His limbs were twisted and interlocked, or crisscross applesauce, as he once called it. "Sentinel, how would you feel about joining the Wyvern Brigade?" the major asked.